team in an A market would be better than an A team in a B market. In other words, if a group came into me that wasn't as good, but they were going after a tremendous market, I would probably be more impressed with that than an unbelievably great team going after a poor market. And maybe that seems obvious to you. Maybe they taught you that at business school, but it was something that wasn't obvious to me, and something that I kind of learned as I went through it. And interestingly enough, there's a guy named Ed Chow who was an entrepreneur in Silicon Valley in the 70s and did a couple of very successful companies, and actually went on to become a state senator or representative or something.
Ed Chow, yeah.
Ed Chow, yeah.
Yeah, very good.
So he actually, in the late 70s, had this idea that it was all the people, and so he made a bunch of money. So he basically took, and you're going to love this, he took 5 Stanford MBAs and said, all that matters is smartness. So we're just going to take 5 smart people from Stanford. We're going to give them some money, leave them alone for a year, and I'm sure they're going to come up with something great. So we can say why we know it didn't work, right? Because they're from Stanford. But kind of the answer was that these 5 smart guys kind of bounced around and they had a good time, but actually nothing came out of it. And he actually came out like a year and a half later and said, I was really shocked. I was sure that just 5 smart guys would kind of come up with something, And I think that was kind of just how I grew up. The team's really important and all that. But what I really learned is that a great booming market makes up for a lot of mistakes. I mean, you can do a lot of things wrong, but if your market is doubling, for example, doubling every quarter, so the market's growing at 2 times, 16x a year or something, you can make a whole lot of mistakes and still do real well. And even though you might have a tremendous team, if you're in a crappy market, it just has low margins and it's a commodity or it's going down, it's really tough. And certainly in the environment today, most markets are lousy markets. So it's even more important now when we look at stuff. What are the markets that are out there that are booming? And there actually are markets out there that companies that I'm involved in. I'm on the board of. I'm on the board of six companies as an investor. So I see sort of a lot of different stuff. We have a couple of them that are basically doubling every quarter. Doubling in this market. And these guys are actually the 2 guys I'm thinking in particular are out of the Berkeley program. I actually met them through Naeem, being a judge at one of the things a couple of years ago.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So just to play the sort of devil's advocate, right? Yeah. In the .com years, wasn't that sort of the mistake that VCs made? Everybody thought they were investing in companies in booming markets, and you had many mediocre teams trying to execute. They funded these and they burned them.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So maybe
I think that's still true. I think the thing is there was so much opportunity, it just sucked in a lot of people, and so a lot of them were mediocre. But when you look at things like that gift card company, I forget what it was called. This guy one guy pretty much by himself made this gift card company. Would go to the web and you could send your friend
e-greetings.
An e-greeting company. I think it was called Bluebird or something. It was one I remember. Anyway, this thing sold for like $850 million. This guy like 3 guys, there were a lot of mediocre people, but a lot of mediocre people, did really well. When you look at that, I mean, clearly there was such an attraction that not everything was successful, but an enormous number of really mediocre people, were able to build something up and sell it. And it may have turned out to be not worth something a couple years later, but still, the fact that there was, and then just look at something like Amazon, which would be in that category back then. I mean, Amazon was perceived to be something that went way up and that was not worthwhile. But in fact, it was. It actually went up higher than it should have, went down, and now back up. But now, it's kind of one of the
survivor companies are gonna do well.
So I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think success